The Irish Gardaí have a new job, and that job is investigating Russian war crimes. I kid you not. This is Ben Scallan and you're watching Gript Media. Before we start the video, if you want to support Gript and our work, make sure to click like, subscribe and comment, because by liking, commenting and sharing, you actually boost this channel in the algorithm on social media and get this channel seen by more people. And so with that said, on to the video. It stands to reason that if there are allegations of war crimes, not just in Ukraine but anywhere in the world, then those claims need to be thoroughly investigated, obviously. The charge, after all, is immensely serious, and the world absolutely has a right to know what did or did not happen during this war. Nothing negative can come from a full and fair investigation, because if you value the truth, then having more information can never be a bad thing, obviously. But with the greatest of respect, of all the groups that you could have put up to the task of bringing potential Russian war criminals to justice, I'm not exactly sure that Ireland's own Garda Síochána are up to the challenge. As reported by RTE this week, Garda resources offered for Russian war crimes probe. Ireland will be offering Garda resources to investigate allegations of war crimes in Ukraine. Mr. Harris, that's Justice Minister Simon Harris, will tell the conference that Ireland is committed to providing €3 million for the court's work, including specific funding for victims of war crimes. He will also examine ways to provide practical assistance through Garda Resources and Forensic Services Ireland. A Garda spokesperson said that the assistance is currently given in this jurisdiction for international war crimes inquiries by locating and engaging with victims, witnesses and suspects related to international genocide and war crimes, and engaging and contributing to the European Network for Investigation and Prosecution of Genocide Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes. Wow, what a mouthful. So you hear that, Putin? Ireland's boys in blue are on the case now. Now you've really got yourself in trouble. You better sleep with one eye open in that Kremlin of yours, bucko. You wouldn't like Simon Harris when he's angry. Now, forgive my sarcastic skepticism here, but it seems necessary to mention that these are the same Gardaí who apparently aren't able to stop constant ransacking of shops on Grafton Street, i.e. the main tourist street in our capital city. The North Face shop on that road has had its front window smashed and been looted 4 times in 3 months, with the store manager calling for urgent Garda action. On the same street in recent months, Skechers and Canada Goose have been robbed and vandalised, and the front of the Hugo Boss shop was rammed by a car in a smash and grab robbery in January. That incident cost the shop over €10,000, and this is all on the same street within months, mind you. This happens all the time in what is effectively the Times Square of Dublin. This is the dead centre of the city where all the tourists go to spend their money and experience the joys of our capital, and it's being brazenly raided by vandals seemingly every few weeks. Now, there are 2 possibilities for why the police could be letting this happen. On one hand, maybe the Gardaí genuinely can't do anything to stop this. Garda Commissioner Drew Harris has often spoken about how under-resourced the Irish police are, and we hear Garda resignations are quadrupling due to officers being overworked, and the force is seriously struggling to retain and recruit members. So maybe they actually just don't have the manpower to police Grafton Street properly. They'd like to, but it's just not possible. Okay, fair enough. But why then are we committing our very limited resources to hunting alleged Russian malfeasance exactly? Why is it that we can't police or investigate crimes on Grafton Street, but we can apparently investigate crimes in Mariupol 3,000 kilometers away? If they can't even fix the absolute basics on our own doorstep, then what are the odds that our lads are going to make any significant contribution to this complex international process? Well, probably not great, one would have thought. We heard this week that according to a Dublin airport whistleblower, our country's aviation security is not fit for purpose and leaves Ireland vulnerable to potential terrorist attacks. We also hear that according to a new UN study, Ireland has one of the world's biggest cocaine problems. In fact, an illegal shipment of millions of euros worth of coke was just seized at Rosslare Port this week. Dublin Bus is suspending entire bus routes because of, quote, grotesque levels of violence. The country is awash with violence, drugs, cartel killings and mayhem, which seems like something that the Gardaí might be interested in, but as with the Grafton Street situation, they either can't do anything or they aren't bothered to do anything. And yet we're still going to be dedicating millions of euros and police forensic resources to prosecuting alleged international crimes thousands of miles away, as if we can meaningfully even help with that. The Gardaí just opened a new station on O'Connell Street, which is a good move and welcome, but it closes at 2 a.m. just when crime typically starts to get bad. And since when do Garda stations close anyway, by the way? What, do they operate on business hours now? This is sort of reminiscent of when Minister Simon Coveney visited Ukraine last year and he had the Garda Emergency Response Unit with him as backup. What was supposed to happen there if things went wrong exactly? If Coveney was attacked by the Russian military, were Gardaí going to shoot back or something? The Irish Rangers makes perfect sense because they are actually elite soldiers whose job involves escorting politicians through war zones and things of that nature. But this whole thing was just an absurd misuse of police resources from the get-go. This is not what we pay the Gardaí for. We pay taxes to police crimes in this country, not overseas. And in fact, when a Russian warship held naval exercises in Irish waters, it was left to ordinary Irish fishermen to disrupt the maneuvers and convince the ship to ultimately leave. The Gardaí didn't do anything, and in fact, even the army just quote-unquote monitored the situation. So if you wanted to take on Russia, the moment to do it would have been when they were actually invading our territory and making themselves at home on our front porch illegally. But instead, the police did absolutely nothing about that and want to police the streets of Kiev instead for some reason. It's an absolute joke. The government's virtue signaling is downright embarrassing, and they always write checks that they simply can't cash just to be seen as helping and doing our part. Putin and his oligarchs must have broken their arses laughing in the Kremlin when they heard who's investigating them. In fact, if he's really lucky, he'll get sentenced by an Irish judge as well and walk away with a €50 fine and a stern talking to down at the station. The whole thing is actually laughable on its face. Please like and share this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider signing up for a monthly donation via the link on screen to help us produce more content like this. Alternative media like Gript needs all the assistance it can get, and every donation goes a long way. As always, thanks for watching.